All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this latest episode of the Richard Haydarn podcast. Marami tayong pag-usapan ngayon. Of course, today I have a very special guest. All our guests are special, but once again, we have one of my former professors here, Professor Ranjit from UP Diliman Political Science Department. Thank you very much, Prof, for joining us.
Thank you, Richard, for having me here. Good evening to all our guests, no, all our viewers, I should say, both at the TV and the internet, wherever this is shown all around the world. Thank you for having me here, Richard. And before we start, I'd like to take the opportunity to congratulate you, my former student, with your incredible vlog, no, and everything you're doing. I'm very proud of your citizenship and leadership as not just a media personality, but also as a budding public intellectual. No, I'm very proud of that because you were my student. Dati pasando-sando sandals ka lang sa klase ko. Ngayon, social ka na. Meron ka ng vlog iyo.
Nako,
And,
nako.
and that you are being true to your own UP roots, no? That you'll serve the people through your academic work, through your advocacy, and through your, your leadership as a media personality, as an influencer. And I think that's really good. People may disagree with you or agree with you, but you're out there putting your reputation on the line to inform, encourage people to converse, no, to encourage people to take part in the discussion, and that's I'm very proud of that. No, you're one of my few students who did very well in my class, and it's good to see that you're doing well now.
Thank you very much, Professor Ranjit. Obviously, we'll talk about also your other hat, which is your very executive position in now a household name survey agency, Octa. Pag-usapan natin later on. Pero anong official designation niyo, Sir Ranjit, in Octa?
Well, okay. In Octa, I'm the president. I'm also a fellow, just
As
like
executive as you can get. Sorry, president. Yes.
Yeah, I know. I know. Unfortunately, somebody has to take that job, no? Professor Guido David refuses to take that administrative position. He's the chief data scientist. And maybe you've, some of the people here, baka narinig nyo na kami, nung time ng COVID, kami yung magugulo dyan na nagsasalita, no? And our goal is truth-telling and truth-seeking, no, as an organization. So it started really with COVID, looking at how science and data can inform, empower citizens, no, during the pandemic, to what we have now, which is a full, public, social science research organization, a public opinion research organization called Octa.
Prof, just shortly before we go to Octa and then go to, of course, the reason why we're together today, among others, is yung nilabas yung bagong survey kung saan pinapakita na katulad ng ibang surveys, authoritative surveys na nakita natin, na ang majority na ating mga kababayan ay bukas dito sa ICC probe. No? Bago natin pag-usapan yan, una-una, of course, naging prof ko kayo sa Philippine politics and government. Can you tell me a little bit about how did you end up in that realm? Kasi usually alam ko yung mga nagpo-polls gusto nila mag-international, comparative. Dahil nakaka-dismay yung politika natin, to be honest. Like, what gave you the passion?
In the literature, low politics tawag dito. High politics yung, I'm an international relations guy. My area of interest has been India-Philippines bilateral relations. Now, our family has been, not just me, my father, my sister have been big contributors in that field. No, we've written all our research work in that area. I mean, we've contributed our research work in that area. My particular area of specialization in my graduate studies was public administration, public policy, and program administration. I know it sounds boring, no, but it's important, no, that we understand the policy process, that we understand that we have a role in shaping that policy process in a emerging, growing, developing democracy like ours in the Philippines. And Octa came into fore really because of a project that we had with 8 other people, no, 7 other people, including myself, no. And our basic argument was that there should be an alternative voice in public opinion research. And that's what we're trying to do now, no. We're very much beholden to SWS and Pulse. They've set the benchmark. We are trying every day, to achieve, or come closer to that benchmark. And in the last 3 years, we're lucky, because we've been able to break, the barrier as far as awareness is concerned. And we're among the top 3 survey companies with the highest awareness as far as Filipinos are concerned. So when you talk about Octa, the awareness in the National Capital Region is 7 out of 10 Filipinos. When you look at Octa awareness for the whole country, it's 6 out of 10. And we're very proud of that. We achieved that in less than 3 years. Develop a brand where we find the truth telling and truth seeking as the basic foundation for our work. So we were investigated in Congress for telling the truth, no, basically.
Oo nga pala, naalala ko yan eh.
Yeah, I know. Sabi nga ng mga kaibigan namin sa other survey agencies, they've been there for 30 years. They were dreaming of being investigated by Congress, no? Kami nga, we weren't even 2 years old. We were investigated by Congress, largely for
Publicity.
telling the truth. And the last elections, 2022, I think we did extremely well, 100%, no? Batting average as far as the president, the vice president is concerned. All the senators until the number 15, we got it right, except for the placement of Robin Padilla. Only God knew that, no? Okay, apart from that, we've decided as an organization that it's our duty as citizens, no, to contribute to this conversation, to this whole arena of knowledge, no, knowledge generation called public opinion research. So that's Octa for us, and we're now moving forward, no, as far as our surveys are concerned. This is the second, almost 3 years now of surveys we've had. We're building up our database, and hopefully we will continue to do good as far as our advocacy and our research is concerned.
Prof, Ranjit, before going to some of the major important surveys you have conducted recently na public ngayon, kasi may mga commission surveys na hindi natin pwede pag-usapan kasi syempre binayaran yun and may privileges and all that comes with it. And I mean in a professional sense, yung term kasi ng bayaran ay naging negative na ngayon.
Yeah, I know.
Can you tell us a little bit about bakit Octa? What's with is it a number thing? And then the composition, because one of the things I remember is the reason why Octa became a household name faster than any institution I know in the country, like mas crazy pa yung meteoric pa yung rise is because you guys were doing analysis, epidemiological analysis at the height of the pandemic in ways that no other agencies were doing. And then later on, mas naging transition kayo into full-fledged survey agencies. How did that come about? I mean, of course, you're a political scientist, but a number of your colleagues I know are statisticians, David, mathematicians. There's some folks from UST or affiliated with UST who were in the public health realm. Can you tell us a little bit about this? Kasi alam ko medyo naging controversial ng una. Sino tong Octa na to? Bakit everyone is citing them? Sino ba itong mga to? Public health expert ba sila? Are they epidemiologists or are they mathematicians? So for the purpose of clarifications and clarity, not that you need to defend yourself anymore, you guys are big already, but just for the purpose of our audience and all.
Yeah. Ang Octa research kasi was the idea was founded in 2019. It was on inspiration. The inspiration here, the 8 other people, they don't want to be mentioned, but my father, Dr. Roger Posadas, now former chancellor of UP Diliman, was a big inspiration here. Dr. Serafin Talisayon, who used to work with General Almonte as a deputy national security advisor. And some other individuals who don't want to be named, became an inspiration to us to start a public opinion research at one level, and in a bigger, broader level, a social science research organization, where UP faculty can freely express their positions, their research work. It can be a vehicle for UP professors to come out and do research. So this was the original inspiration for Octa. That was in 2019. And in 2020, unfortunately for us, or fortunately for us, we found a venue. Professor Guido David in the Institute of Math was doing a research paper on the SER model, which is used to study disease spread. He was doing a journal article and asking me about the policy implications of doing this kind of research. And we decided, because of the lockdown, which affected all of us, there were only 2 choices. One is to contribute to the national effort to understand this pandemic, or to spend their time watching K-drama. So we decided with the former, and we started doing contributing to the conversation on a weekly basis, Richard. On a weekly basis, we released our results We gave them to whoever wanted the results. We gave it, of course, to IATF. And it turned out that our projections, somebody at least on the internet began to see, hey, our projections we were on the spot, no? With the nail on the head, no? We were very accurate with our projections. And that's where it started, the advocacy to use science, no? To empower citizens with information. The belief that an empowered citizenry can make decisions, no, in a democracy like ours. And so this became, what was initially a science project became an advocacy, and then of course we bolted out of, or we separated from UP and decided to insulate UP from the kind of research that we were doing as far as COVID was concerned. And this led us to decide, hey, why don't we start doing public opinion research? We're composed largely of natural scientists, mostly doctors, medical doctors. But we have a team of around 8 or 10
Statistics.
yeah,
Yeah.
statisticians, no? And three mathematicians, no? Graduate level, no? So everybody in our team is a graduate level, is a graduate of UP, except for one, Dr. Father Nicanor Austriaco,
It was a
who
public health public.
he's a undergraduate in Pennsylvania and in MIT, his PhD in MIT. And he was a virologist, no, from UST, teaching in Providence College. He was borrowed by UST. Now, he was the only non-UP member of the team. No? And so most of our own faculty from UP compose Octa Research. No? So largely it's a UP organization. But of course, we're very proud of our fellows. All of them did volunteer work for our COVID research. So it should be around 15 to 20 members, fellows right now who are actively involved still with the advocacy and work of Octa.
Thank you for giving that kind of background. No, kasi I think at the beginning may konting confusion. Ito by Octa UP or Octa is separate? So na-explain niyo yung evolution niya. I also remember, and as someone who who doesn't overproduce his stuff, naalala ko there was a time na yung website niyo parang hindi pa ganun ka-kompleto. Alam ko gumagaan pa kayo ng mga template pictures.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I don't know now.
Our website has been hacked a couple of times.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, so that's why we're moving towards a more secure platform. We're public school teachers doing public opinion research. We're so unprepared, honestly, so unprofessional, I have to admit, when it comes to doing this kind of work. So we had to hire a couple of people, and we found out from our research that a lot of people really go to Facebook, TikTok, and so we're developing our presence there. And we apologize to the public if we haven't updated in our website because it's constantly being hacked and attacked. You won't believe, our own provider is already complaining. He's putting too much manpower and time just defending the site, no? So we will be coming out with a better site. We're in the process of coming out with a better site with an actual database of everything we have done. And pretty soon, once after a year, a lot of the work that was been embargoed will now be available to the public. And the ethos of Octa is really academic in nature, no? So we were the first, our own fellows were the first to publish COVID-related international journal, in an international journal, COVID-related studies. No, we've been at the forefront of trying to generate scientific output, no, from our statistical data. So we've published quite a number of journal articles already as a group, no. And so we're still trying to generate that. So this is the mindset of Octa. We're here to contribute. We're here to collaborate. We're not here to compete with the top two. We recognize the top two firms, no? Pulse Asia and SWS. What we want to do, Richard, is for social scientists like you to come out with 3 surveys, no? Most of the survey companies, they overlap in survey periods, no? So we wanted to always, we were always studying what's the cycle of the survey.
Tiebreaker, yeah.
I'll be the tiebreaker, the validator, di ba? So Octa will come out last normally. And like last year, we have the latest survey for the 4th quarter for the whole country. If you're just looking at SWS, Pulse, and Octa. And what came out, of course, is what has been in the news, all over the news today. Number one, Filipinos want to rejoin the ICC, and number two, that Filipinos are supportive, no, of the call for government to cooperate with the ICC investigations on the drug-related killings that happened during the last administration. That's 55%.
Yes, thank you. I think we're already transitioning. Thank you for my co-host for
Yeah,
overseeing the transition. I just wanted, I mean, Prof. Ranjit, I look forward to having more of these conversations quite regularly over time, as
Yeah.
long as you have time and then you're open. So kaya nga sabi ko, parating ginagawa ko is, a little bit of a background, understanding, para alam ng tao, hindi lang tayo nag-hello, hi lang dahil lang nagte-trending yung report nyo ngayon. That
Yeah.
it goes back to personal and institutional ties
Yeah.
for quite some time. And I also commend you guys for doing a fantastic job. I was just in Tokyo the other week, and there was a new institute of geoeconomics, and it was established by the senior professors from University of Tokyo, and they were telling us how everyone is threatened by them because they just came out of nowhere. And they're so, for the lack of a better term, very American, right? You go there, they're very open. It's in a posh area. It's not your typical Japanese institutions and all. And they're doing very well. They're doing very well. Meron silang surveys of top 100, parang Fortune 100 of Japan. So I think the past 2, 3, 5 years has been the age of disruption, and many people out of nowhere, many institutions out of nowhere have been doing very well as long as they had those foundations. So your experience reminds me of what's happening also in Tokyo and all around the world. And of course, in my case, in my own small way also, the past few years, I also tried to build some sort of niche here and all of that. Now, pag-usapan natin itong mga surveys kasi to be honest, ang survey agencies ngayon, the whole survey business nowadays has come under a lot of skepticism and all. I mean, alam natin sa Pilipinas, I mean, more than anyone, sa Pilipinas walang natatalo, nadadayaan lang or nananalo. But one of the things we noticed in last elections, things got very, very toxic. And from people that we should have known better, I mean, some of them are from our institution, they were trying to invoke, I don't know, like Google Trends or all sorts of different big data stuff. And there were also some very malicious, I would say, attacks against some of our friends and colleagues, including against our good friends in Pulse Asia, sila Ronnie Holmes. The amount of stress he had to go through throughout the years. So having said that, nung sumabak kayo dito sa eksena ng political surveys and all of that, what was your state of mind? Was your state of mind also about, fighting for this? Because if we're not gonna do evidence-based policy analysis, evidence-based political analysis, and then kwentong barbero na lang tayong lahat. Although maganda yung ibang kwentong barbero, there are levels to it. I mean, how did you navigate also that very toxic environment? Dahil, syempre, kung ayaw kay Digong, tapos yung surveys na, si Digong mataas, inisang tao sa'yo. Kung mababa si Digong, galit naman yung kabila. So in a polarized environment, I would imagine, it was very difficult getting into this world. Can you tell me a little bit also about that before we go to this very
It was extremely challenging because number one, this was something that everyone in Octa agreed would be our direction. In fact, there was a big, lively debate about it. Truth telling and truth seeking is really a lonely job at some level. You know this, although you're trying your best to do this also yourself, no? And we got investigated by Congress. There was an inquisition against us, no? And it's so unfortunate because all we were doing was telling the truth. And the proof of the pudding is really in the eating. In this kind of work, legitimacy is so important. Integrity is so important. And I think we were able to prove that. We had the same struggles with SWS and Pulse. We've been here for decades now. In the run-up to the 2022 elections, nobody believed us. They believed in the Kalye surveys. But when the results came...
taas ng views. Ang daming yumaman sa mga Kalye survey na kilala.
I know, in the millions, di ba? Yeah, at some point, the Institute of Statistics had to come out with a statement basically exhorting people to look at the science, no, of this. That this is not just haka-haka, kuro-kuro. Ito is siyensya, no? And like what we were doing with COVID, our research there, and this, now we had to really inform the public. And in 2022, we were proven correct. All the survey companies were proven correct, and we were very proud of our work in Octa. We came out with 3 weeks before the election, 58.1% for BBM. We were, by the way, surprised by that also, no? We knew he was going to win, but to win that big
That
was
big,
incredible, no? We released it. The actual vote was 58.7, Richard. So
yeah. Very
the science, we're extolling the science here. What came out was exactly very near what we predicted. And our top 12 senators came out exactly how we predicted. No? Some survey companies missed one or two candidates, but Octa did not miss a single one. So we did very well as an organization, but I guess it was the science of statistics that won the day. And I don't think there's a lot of people who question surveys now. What they question now, Richard, is the integrity of the survey company.
yes,
And
yes, yes,
you know,
yes, yes.
as long as SWS and Pulse are there, and we can continue to validate what they come out with,
Yeah,
yeah, we can now
cross-reference.
cross-validate.
Yeah.
And the more the merrier, di ba? Kasi in the United States, Richard, di ba?
Oh yeah, they're like 9
yeah,
Rasmussen. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, ang dami, di ba? I
Ang
mean,
dami.
nakakalito na nga eh. Kung
Kaya
sa
may median, di ba? Meron silang like
yes,
median of
yes.
9
You
surveys,
look
di
at the
ba?
you look at a website like Real Clear Politics in the United States, where you have 5 or 6 survey companies results open to the public. They're compared, and people get a good picture of the political landscape. No, they get a good view of the political context. No, and in a sense, surveys have a democratizing effect there. After elections, people are never consulted. Truly, Richard. After the candidate wins, no, wala naman, hindi na pinapansin yung mga botante. Pero dito sa survey, napapakinggan yung
May feedback loop.
perception
Yeah.
ng nakakarami. And our leaders listen to surveys. You won't believe. Okay, we have a survey that will come out with a report. No, that something like 20% of our voters change their own vote because of what they learn from the surveys. We'll try to come up with that result. No? We'll and validate the result.
Interest.
The
Let's have a
fourth
separate
quarter.
episode on that, perhaps. Yeah, we have.
Yeah. We'll give you the report on
Very
that.
interesting.
So another thing that's important is that surveys also, in a sense, because if they're done methodically and scientifically using the best practices, if there are not enough survey companies who do that, you can validate, cross-validate, confirm, okay, what the nation is thinking about issues. In some sense, it's a way to understand who we are, where we want to go, as a people. But where we want to go is hard to answer if we don't know who we are and what we think about issues. So surveys contribute to understanding who we are as a people, what our sentiments are on different issues, on a range of issues. And if there are enough good survey companies, and there are good survey companies there, SWS and Pulse are very good survey companies, and they have a track record. Octa is trying to follow in their footsteps, no? And build a reputation similar to them. We have enough reputable survey companies. I think the science of statistics will strive. People will continue to believe in the science of surveys, no? That underlies surveys, and will be better informed in a sense, no? And more aware of what others are thinking about this issue. It has an impact on democracy and development because people will
But
act
Professor,
according.
I mean,
Empowering.
just to push back against, not me, but I mean, just the devil's advocate. What about this argument of mind conditioning? I know there was an interesting number of academic papers on the the trending effect that surveys may have in terms of like making you realize itong candidate hindi viable, so dun na lang ako sa iba. What do you say about that bandwagoning effect that could happen?
Yeah, the bandwagon effect. We haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen. Well, we're studying it, Richard. I have to be very honest. We're looking into it. We haven't accepted anybody's position on the issue. We have a couple of quarters now of survey results that show that it's nominal. The bandwagon effect is nominal, but it's not insignificant. There are people who get. I just told you about the percentage. There are people who change their vote largely because of what they learn from the surveys, but it's not majority of our population. And it also, in a sense, informs us that hindi naman bobotante ang Pilipino. Even on this issue of ICC, you can see, if you give them an awareness of the issue. So in this particular survey, we had an explanatory card that basically told our interviewees this is what the ICC is, its basic function in protecting rights. We were once a member. So then we ask the basic question: do you think we should? But we're not anymore the member. Should we rejoin? That's a basic question. Once you inform them, they have a position, and when you look at the survey results, there's not too much gray area, no. It's either they're for or against. Majority are for rejoining the ICC. What
Can we go
inspired
to
the
your
yeah,
survey,
sure,
Professor? Yeah,
share.
can you screen share for the purpose of our audience? Obviously, now people are just hearing you, but the finalist version will have it all out there, just in case hindi sila naka-access dito. So, tingnan natin muna yung mga data, no? In the
Can you see it, Richard?
I think it's still loading. Can you
Yeah,
try
let
again?
me just see if we can. Yeah, is that good?
Yes, that's good. That's
Okay,
good.
so at a glance, no, for everyone, is that good? So our survey is a fourth quarter survey, which means it was done in December, and we released it only in Feb. And the probe is on the ICC, its investigation in the Philippines. So what were the okay? So what's important here to understand is these numbers would have changed by now. These numbers would have changed by now because of so much that has happened since January. Okay, so this is just the fourth quarter. And what is it saying? 59% on the question of rejoining the International Criminal Court. 59% of adult Filipinos are in favor of rejoining the ICC, and 41%, that's a significant number, who are not in favor. So there's a position. It's just that in this particular survey, there are more people who want to rejoin the ICC. Number two, on the question of cooperating with the International Criminal Court in its investigation of drug-related killings during the Duterte administration, again, majority, 55% of adult Filipinos are in favor of the government cooperating with the ICC, and around 45% are not in favor. So it's really tight, huh? It's really divisive. It's really polarizing. There's interesting, that there's an opinion on this issue, especially when you make them aware or remind them of the
So,
issue.
konti ng undecided, which is quite different from, the impression you get from some of the other discussions and surveys. No, mukhang ito very polarized. Right?
Yeah, we were also surprised ourselves, huh? And you look at the spread, no, as far as the regional spread is concerned, the NCR, Balanced Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao.
And then the class element, no? So yung ABC, 67.
Across the board, across areas, it's majority of people who want this, including Mindanao. Okay, so of course there's a margin of error of ±3. So even if you factor this in, you'll see that majority of Filipinos want to rejoin or see the importance of rejoining the International Criminal Court. And I think that's important for us, no? When you look at the spread as far as age is concerned, you'll see, 18 to 34, you see a large number of our young population basically supporting rejoining the ICC.
So ang pinakamataas 75 and up, no? 72% ng
of those of that age group. But when you look at the population, it's really below 35 years old, the bulk of the population.
Right.
And when you look at that, it's fairly clear that more than half, of the population, or majority of the population, are open to this stuff. We don't know if this will change in the forthcoming survey of March that will be conducted in March.
Interesting.
It could go up, it could go down. But what we do know is that this validates basically to some extent what SWS is also seeing.
Yes.
Different
51% probe, 58% cooperation with the probe, right? That's what I heard from the just a point lang, Prof, pwede balikan natin ng konti. I mean, what is your read on the millennials 25 to 34, like almost 7 out of 10, Gen Z mas mababa ng 57. Is there something there, or like what? I mean,
well, is
there a sociological?
Maybe we'll suspend the analysis of that until our next survey.
We have more
get some trend in place. At least we can study 2 points now, see how things are changing.
And Prof, is this the is this the first survey on ICC? Sorry.
Yeah, this is the first. Yeah, unfortunately, this is our first. This is a first, and there are only 2 questions. Although we did not put in a question on awareness specifically, what we did was we had an information card read to our interviewers, no, explaining what the ICC is all about. No? And so maybe we'll change that for the next round. Maybe add more questions. So this is how it looks. No, it's fairly equal as far as gender is concerned. There are more people in the rural areas. This is interesting, Richard, no? Who believe we
Interesting.
join the ICC.
Correct, correct.
Okay,
So
people who probably look
62%
at
were
the human
rural.
rights aspect of it, protection aspect of the issue, and
And
you
higher
know,
among postgraduate and college
yeah,
graduate.
yeah,
60%. Yeah.
exactly. But which is pretty predictable because these are people who are the more educated, no, the higher, okay, the more awareness we assume, no, about the issue. Now, on the second question, should the government cooperate? This is a big question raised by the president in his December conversations. Of course, we all know that all of that has changed in January. No, the president has a completely different position altogether, and we see this as, people, taking my hat off. You begin to question whether this is about principle or leveraging or politics. No, the changing position of our chief executive on this issue. But should he have a change of heart, no, and would like to restudy really our position on the ICC. Now he has data, whether it's SWS or Octa, and it's clear. Majority of the population want the government to cooperate with the investigation as far as the drug-related killings that happened during the Duterte administration. This is the table. So interesting. This is very different from the first table. We have lower numbers in Mindanao at 42%.
Right.
We have a slightly higher number in class ABC, but it's still relatively a good spread as far as the socioeconomic classes are concerned. The highest is in balanced Luzon as far as areas are concerned, but still it's above 50%. And for us, this is significant because we didn't expect this kind of result. But then again, you look at no, Richard, no? It's a fairly divisive
May pagka-Brexit ang dating niya, no? I mean, I
oh,
find
nga,
it interesting na Balance Luzon is like 70-30 almost spread, and then Mindanao
yes.
like 60-40 spread, which
Yeah.
just tells you there's also this geographic aspect. But I want to ask, I don't see it here, but is there also a Mindanao spread? I mean, the Davao region, Eastern Mindanao versus, let's say, Bangsamoro, Northern Mindanao.
Yeah, let's look at it. Yeah, let's look
Probably,
at that.
yeah, let's
Yeah,
look at
that's
that.
it.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's it. There it is. The last three
Very,
areas.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're seeing that there's a position that's also there's a regional,
Yeah.
maybe
Bailiwick
possibly,
aspect.
yeah. But we don't know. This is just a initial baseline survey for us. We'll come up with another survey in early March, no, late Feb, early March, and hopefully we'll provide you see these changes. West Philippine Sea survey. I don't know if you got it. We sent it to you.
Yes, yes. Also that.
Interesting,
You want to
interesting.
discuss that
You've
also?
changed, no? Over the last 3 quarters, we were saying,
Yes.
well, the Philippine public, when asked what are the measures government should look into or should study, no, in resolving the issues of the related to the West Philippine Sea. Number one was always, to assert rights through diplomatic means. Okay, that's around 70%. And it's always been the number one measure, no, in the list or menu of measures. Second is, the use of, basically military, or the use of or expanding naval and troop presence in the area.
Right.
So always number two. Third would be, of course, modernizing the military. In the last quarter, it flipped. For the first time, expanding our military presence, naval and the troop presence in the area became number one. And that was if I'm not mistaken, that was a 6-point increase.
Which clearly had something
the
to do
public,
dun sa
the
nangyari sa
public
ayungin.
changes its
Oo.
perception, and I think it's largely due to the information provided by the armed forces, the media, on what's really happening in the West Philippine Sea. So the position now is, okay, we'll have a dual track approach, but I think we should emphasize, the public is saying to the government, we should emphasize military action over diplomacy. That means in our own survey that was defined as expanding naval and troop presence in the West Philippine Sea. And the distant fourth, but still significant, was joint military maritime patrols with allied countries. So
Australia,
the
Japan,
the government is doing exactly what people are saying it should do. It should prioritize. When you look at the uh, satisfaction with the government's response in the West Philippine Sea, it went up also. So it was down for 2 quarters. Suddenly, the trend shifted and went up. So, you know, surveys are important, no? In that sense, no? It provides government information, feedback about, how it's doing, no? How it's performing on in response to a myriad issues, no? A plethora of issues that challenge it, no? Or challenge our government. And so that's what we're saying. We're seeing that the public is discerning, the public is engaged in many ways, and that they will change their own position.
Yeah, I brought it back kasi
And
we're
then,
already discussing a different survey na kasi nasa West Philippines. Do you have a copy of the West Philippines Sea one that you want to share right now?
yeah. We can show that, no.
Yeah, please. Oh, kasi nasa
yeah,
ICC pa rin yung data natin eh.
yeah. Oh,
Share that.
I'll look for it. Yeah, while we're talking about it, no. Sige,
Sure,
we can.
sure.
What I want to emphasize is that what we're seeing now is just the fourth quarter. It's a snapshot. It may change. It could change, and it's really a public perception, dynamic, no, as it is, because of the information and because of the people like you informing the public what's really happening. This is the impact, no, changing perceptions on the issue. We saw this dramatic change in our West Philippine Sea probe. We're seeing it now in the ICC. If we're to follow the findings of another survey agency, SWS. And the good thing about this is that we're validating, okay, each other. So we're seeing the same thing, although we ask different questions. So we're seeing a confluence, no, of perceptions on this issue. And while this is just a snapshot, it could consolidate even more in the next survey, okay, or it could change completely. No, we don't know. So that's why it's important we do this quarterly. We do this. All three of us share data to the public so we can compare. No? So this is where we are now. We're hoping that we can continue to provide information to the public on myriad issues, no, including those that we discussed now.
Professor Rai, I mean, I think now we're going to transition to the part where I want you to put your political analyst hat, right? As one of the leading analysts. I know so far you're the Octa president guy talking, and I appreciate that because we have to look at the numbers. Well, I mean, the good thing is that, as you mentioned, we already have data longitudinal almost. I remember very well because I write a lot on the West Philippines Issue. Pag tinignan mo yung SWS and Pulse Asia, pretty consistent. Even yung panahon ni Digong na 7, 8, 9 out of 10 Filipinos wanted us to take a tougher stance on the West Philippines issue, which was quite divergent from what former President Duterte was standing on. The ICC one is quite different. It's interesting because SWS one is showing that from Q2 to Q4 of last year, there was some upward trajectory in terms of support for the probe in ICC, which I think is important. I mean, as we talk, we have many interesting people from different sides. Of course, supporters of Duterte are commenting on TikTok. Actually, I'm also live on TikTok saying that, well, that doesn't say that they want ma-arresto si Digong. I mean, we're not saying...
Yeah, that's true. Hey, that's a very important point.
Yes.
Our survey is not talking about that. In fact, we failed to ask that question. But SWS, I think, was able to ask something similar to that. And they got a very different result. Now, while there's an agreement, general agreement, that we should rejoin the ICC, that we should cooperate as a government in seeking justice for those who were wronged in the drug wars. It's a completely different issue when you talk about jailing the ex-president. That's an issue we have no data on.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So
because for me, that was important because I remember the moment I shared about the SWS, immediately, the usual suspects attack me and say, oh, but Richard, you didn't mention the part where I think only a small plurality said they trust the ICC. So obviously naging parang spin game na lang ito, no? Like which
Yeah.
part of the survey you want to emphasize. Ako naman, ang analysis ko dito is, well, at the very least, this proves, I mean, you're free to disagree with me, Prof,
Mm.
right? At the very least, it proves that yung mga attack nila Digong and the Duterte side year after year against ICC, you know, while they may not be complete trust in ICC on the question of how they handle the Duterte issue, at the same time, majority are also not agreeing with Duterte na ICC is a totally, you know, invasive species that is, you know, violating our sovereignty. In fact, that's a stance of two senators, at least I know, including the one who topped the Senate race in 2022 in defiance of most surveys and all of that. So for me, it's interesting because the data can be interpreted in different ways. And that's
Yes.
why I also wanted to see the longitudinal, the trend lines.
Yeah.
SWS has that, by look forward to yours. But this is where I want to ask the question, you know, this is where I want to come in and let's talk as political analysts here, political scientists rather, actually. Because if you want to, kasi akin ganito the problem we have had ever since is that people are not looking at the nuances of the surveys. Because I agree with some of the pro-Duterte influencers that we have to also emphasize yung trust issues with the ICC. But in the same breath, I also realized during the Digong time, there was also that problem. For instance, if you look at the surveys on support for Duterte's drug war, 7, 8 out of 10 would say yes. At the same time, 95% in Metro Manila and more than 8 out of 10 in other major regions said that ayaw nila na magkaroon ng EJK. They want the drug suspects kept alive. And more than 7 out of 10 said they're fearful that they'll be a victim of EJK. So that clearly tells you that the support for Duterte's drug war also was very nuanced. It was not a categorical support, both means and ends. It was very conditional. So I think that's why it's important we analyze the surveys and not just let for spin masters to just emphasize one side or the other. So I take the critique, but I also want to say you didn't do that during that time. So it's fair to have this kind of conversation. First, what is your read on that? This kind of conditionality nuances that
I agree with you. It's the really I mean there are two levels there, the framing of the survey questions themselves. And like you properly noted, no? Filipinos are not stupid, no? They're discerning, intelligent people. And what they're basically saying is that, nobody's for drugs. Nobody wants to go home in their escanitas and get harassed or even killed by drug gangs. Nobody wants their communities controlled by narco. Okay, nobody wants to have a narco state, but that doesn't mean that you can't balance that advocacy against drugs with protecting rights. No, so this is a big issue for Filipinos, and survey after survey, even in our surveys, this seems to be what's clear for most Filipinos. Yes, we'll fight the drug war, but not at the expense of violating our rights. Okay, and that at some level, you can balance enforcement with protection of rights. So it's coming out in surveys. It's coming out today.
Right.
So in the surveys from other survey firms, no? And it's important for us to constantly emphasize this as analysts. No, the drug war you're right. It's nuanced, no, and we have
or ambivalence. There's always a degree
Yeah.
of ambivalence there where
Yeah.
analysis has to come in. But speaking of ambivalence, I mean, this is the other thing we keep on hearing, no? Look at Digong's approval ratings. Even there are surveys of even his post-presidential approval ratings, although I find that interesting. Is it the approval of his fashion statement or his rhetorical skills? But you know what they mean. I mean, na may enduring popularity ba siya? I mean, crazy numbers, right? 8, 9 out of 10 Filipinos. I think no Filipino president. In fact, I cannot think of any president in the world. I mean, only Lula siguro back in the day.
Yeah, possibly Lula, in Brazil.
I can only think of Lula or Modi probably one day if he steps down. So
Modi, but possibly,
Modi, I mean, it's a Modi Lula level. It's very crazy high numbers. So some people are saying, how do you parang square that with the fact that there's a lot of openness to toughness on China, which for Duterte was, I mean, in short, Duterte wanted a strong relationship with China. Surveys say that majority want tougher stance on China, but surveys also say that Duterte is very popular among people. So how do you reconcile that, right? And then if on the ICC issue, if he's so popular, why doesn't majority of people actually agree na yung ICC na to ay isang invasive species in violation of our sovereignty? So this is where, diba, the surveys are quite ambivalent, which shows there are layers of thinking going on among our kababayan.
Yeah, and it's true until today. The ex-president continues to be popular. He is he rates very high among those who might win a Senate seat, no? And the family itself continues to be to have a strong influence. You'll see that in the survey results, no? When you look at who should, at least in our internal surveys, who will be best to lead after President BBM, no? And you'll see Sara Duterte is on top of that list, no? And survey after survey that we've come out, although we haven't published this, but this is fairly
Common
commonplace knowledge.
knowledge.
Yeah, common knowledge that she's the number one contender if elections were held today. 2028 elections will be something that is for Sara Duterte to lose, in a sense. And when you look at the surveys, except in certain instances when she's matched up with certain individuals, no? But by and large, it's her election to lose, no? Basically, it's in the bag if elections were held today. But we all know naman, di ba? Alam naman natin matagal pa ang 2028, marami mga pwede magbago diyan. Okay? And matagal pa yung election na yan. Pero ngayon pa lang, ganito kaaga, nakikita mo, ma-impluwensya pa ang Duterte family. Whether there's a question of endorsement power, the president's still wildly popular. No? So there's a big argument even within UP, no? About fear, no?
Yes, the fear factor. I wanted to
love or
mention
feared,
that.
okay?
Yeah. No,
It's
I'll be
both, no?
honest.
But
I mean, I really want to
what's your
emphasize.
position on this issue? Yeah.
Yeah,
What's your
I'm gonna
perspective on this issue?
say, I mean, of course. I mean, we're not Russia, right? We're not
Yeah.
China. We were never a full-fledged autocracy. But I mean, let's be just brutally honest. During Digong's time, we were kind of in what I call a twilight zone. And if you look at the SWS surveys, I don't know if you have in Octa you have done surveys. There are a lot of surveys that show a large plurality at least. I think there was like 44% or something in one SWS survey said it's dangerous to publish negative opinion about the government. For me, that clearly tells me a huge number of Filipino, at least a huge plurality. I mean, did 40% can be a president in this country last time I checked. They're openly admitting that they're not 100% sure if they can be very honest about what they're saying. Now, I know you coming from survey agencies, obviously you're saying that shouldn't undermine the integrity of your surveys. We had Ronnie Holmes on this podcast who told us all the mechanics and the SOPs they used to make sure na walang nagbabantay, walang shadowing, all of those things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what I'm saying is that even if no one is shadowing you, even if you're not Putin's Russia, it's hard to imagine that the fear of Duterte did not go with the love for Duterte. I mean, I know I'm getting into political psychology already, and probably we have to bring Ma'am Clarita Carlos here.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of literature, academic literature, on how fear and love kind of have a distortionary effect. I mean, I can give you a whole list of dictators. I'm not saying Duterte is a dictator, but I can give you a whole list of dictators with 90% approval rating, which didn't look totally crazy at that moment. And then nung nawala na yung dictator, suddenly opinions change. Now, I'm not saying Digong is a dictator. I'm just saying fear has a distortionary effect, or at least has an effect in terms of approval. I mean, if you cannot beat someone, rather love that person, right? If people are dying right and left, you have thousands of EJKs, you rather love this person. You rather not express. I know this is not something that survey guys want to hear.
No, but it's something worth studying. It's
worth studying.
Randy David gave this basically argued this position maybe 4 years ago, no? That it's fear. It's fear that is driving his numbers up. It's fear that's driving compliance, and maybe that is correct. But we still have to back it up with actual data, no? But it runs against what we're seeing now, whether it's SWS, Pulse, or even Octa. When you look at the numbers of Duterte, the preference for him as senator, the continuing preference for him to be the next president, even kahit na constitutionally hindi siya pwede. When you look at his endorsement power, I don't think people fear him. He's not to be feared now. In fact, if we don't know what the first quarter will hold, no, as far as his numbers are concerned, but they seem to be still very influential, and these numbers could even go up, no, because of what happened over the last month or so. Some people are gonna take a hit in government. It's possible,
right?
So is it possible na hindi naman takot lahat ng tao sa kanya? There might be a segment that is. But if people still prefer him, despite the fact that he's not in power, then it's not about fear, Richard. It's about it may be something else. No, the
Mm.
person. The SWS has a paper written by Dr. Rudd and Dr. Tigno, which looked at why his numbers are continue to be high. No, and you know, people also should look into why they continue to be stable all throughout his administration, despite the various faux pas, no, and missteps, and general fact that he ended very badly. You know, the economy ended not with development and democracy, but with debt and death, no. At the end of his,
But
6
we
years.
see this all around, right? Bolsonaro's number,
Yes,
go
yes, I
down.
know.
Modi's number kept high. So we have a lot of comparative data that shows you that strong men are very good in actually doing during crisis period. I mean, as the
Yeah.
line goes during the in the Game of Thrones, chaos is a ladder. Chaos is a ladder.
Yeah.
You can exploit those moments. And I think this is where also disinformation comes in, narratives come in, like lahat na nangyaring death.
But Richard, you can also say that he put in 3 million students to college. The
Sure.
free tertiary education, that one thing he passed during his administration made his administration. By the way, he never supported it truly. He
And social
supported
spending
last
actually
minute.
went up. Social spending
Yeah,
went up during Digong. Infrastructure spending went up during
infrastructure.
Digong. Yeah, he did
Infrastructure
a
was in
lot
the
of
trillions. Of course, a lot of it went to corruption, no? But the thing is, some work got
wala akong
done.
sinabi dyan. Wala
Oh,
akong
I know,
sinabi dyan.
that apparently, no.
Wala
Okay,
akong sinabi dyan.
okay. Apparently, a lot of it was went into negative bureaucratic behavior. Sige, let's put
Yeah,
it
yeah.
that way.
It's a
Mildly.
structural friction.
Yeah. But the thing is, a lot of people were employed. A lot of people, in a sense, until COVID, you saw signs of some nominal trickle down as far as the economy was concerned. And then you have this free tertiary education. That one alone would have ensured that he would
An
be
ayuda.
the most
An ayuda.
popular president of all time.
An
So,
ayuda, yeah.
while we disagree with this war on drugs, we disagree with most of the things he did as president, no, in terms of his style, his rhetoric. He did get to do some things, populist as they are, expensive as they are to sustain today, no. I really pity the current administration. They inherited so many programs that are so expensive, including the doubling of the salaries of our military men and the implications on retirement, the MUP. These are all very expensive social programs that we inherited from the Dutertes. But those, if you look at all of this together, together with this war on drugs, which, by the way, SWS also has data. I mean, the public perception on crimes going down was real, and they have all that study. So when you put all of this together, yes, there was fear, but he was able to do certain things, and to a great extent, people voted for this administration because they wanted a certain sense of continuity as far as those policies were concerned. And by the way, the China policy was never popular anyway. So the president and the new administration was right in their new pivot. It's proven to be more popular now because people actually agree with the 6 out of 10 Filipinos support the administration's position in the West Philippine Sea. So,
I completely
all of
see
those
where
things
you're coming
together and do a more thorough study, no?
I see a perfect way that both of these arguments could be correct. I mean, let me be absolutely clear. I disagree with people who are saying this is a totally manufactured popularity. No, it's not.
Yeah,
The evidence all around the world that strongman populism has a kind of quote-unquote charisma that perfectly fits our ecosystem, information ecosystem, existential challenge ecosystem. So I never agreed with some people that said, no, this is totally fake news. No, my argument though is that perhaps someone's approval should have been around 60-70%, which is closer to the median of other presidents at some point, whether it's Aquino, Ramos, and all. But it went superlative. Maybe that's where the fear factor comes in. You get what I'm saying?
It's possible. I can't say that's
It's
wrong.
the boost there. It's the boost effect there. I never agreed. I never agreed with people say he's not. I think he is genuinely popular. But the superlative numbers, the endurance of that popularity, I cannot separate it from the fear factor. Yun lang sinasabi ko. But no, speaking of the future, we know that Sara has been in the lead, but we know that other people like Senator Tulfo, we see in some of the online surveys, we saw in
You're
SW.
putting me on the spot, my friend.
No, you don't have to answer that. No, what I'm saying is it looks like a more competitive field nowadays, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But it
yeah.
also proves, because Tulfo is also kind of a strong man aura, right? So in a
Yeah.
way, it actually proves that it's a matter of varieties of populism, right? Do you
Yeah,
get
but
where I'm
this
coming from?
kind of
Yeah.
populism is really bad for the country, Richard. You do know that, no? It's something we can sustain on a programmatic basis. It's something that in the long run will undermine both democracy and development. So we all have to speak up, no, and speak out because it's sometimes irrational. I mean, you look at the tertiary education program, no? Although it's popular, and I won't be very popular after I say this. It's anti-poor. I mean, think about it. UP students who are millionaires get free education. I mean, it has to be rationalized, diba? We can't sustain something
Socialized education.
expensive, yeah. And it turns out that our flawed socialized education program or model in the UP may have been the best possible model to sustain this program. I don't believe that rich kids from UP should be given full subsidy. Some of them in my class tell me, we don't deserve this. We drive
Porsche pa
very
nga yung iba
expensive
eh.
cars.
Naka-Lexus, BMW, Porsche pa nga
Yeah,
yung iba eh. I
one of
was
my
finished
students was
college.
telling me, quite
Yeah.
frankly, I drive a car of this kind, and it's almost criminal for me to actually just get this subsidy, but there's no way for them to return it. So sabi ko, you become a good citizen, return it back by serving your country, di ba? I know it's very idealistic, but you know me naman in my classes, eh. That's how I end my classes. It's really about citizenship and leadership. In the end, what we do as citizens, is probably more important than anything government does, no? As far as governance and democracy is concerned. And that's why it's important for us to find the way for citizens to get more engaged. And I think it starts really by, with media people like you, with academics like you, who inform and empower with true knowledge. No? And that's where I think survey companies find a niche. No, the more we inform, the more empowered people are. The better we do our work with integrity, with the best possible methods being utilized, the more science we bring into the thing, the more the surveys matter, no, in the life of our country. So this is something we all have to advocate as individuals, as members of organizations like Octa, like UP. So, it is what it is. We're in interesting times, Richard. For the first time in a long time, we have factors running the show that are outside of the country, bigger than the Romaldeses, the Marcoses, the parochialism, the personalism that pervades our politics. We have strong players in the global arena.
Yeah. The new Cold
Influencing our
War. We're kind of
politics,
the
no?
Berlin of the 21st century, if I can put it.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you're
We're
right.
caught
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
middle. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's complex, diba? It's extremely complex now. These are entities that are driving the dynamics at the domestic level, and for the first time, we really experience, no, what, no, and they're taking sides, they're influencing, and we have as people to be conscious of this and take charge, no, take back our politics and play a more productive role as far as democracy is concerned. And that can only happen if we inform, and empower people. I believe in an informed and educated citizenry, and of course stronger institutions. But it starts really with citizens. And that's what Octa is trying to do, trying to be a part of that movement of truth telling and truth sharing. Hopefully, we'll continue to do our work in the years to come.
Last one, I want to let me put myself na lang on the spot kasi kanina medyo nilagay. Now, for me, I see populism. I mean, what's Cosmo there? I mean, something like it's an illiberal democratic response to undemocratic liberalism, right?
Yeah, I agree
It
with you
is,
on that.
right?
Yeah.
This is not coming out of nowhere. I think it's partly a protest vote. It's partly a desperation vote. It's partly also people trying something different. It's ambivalence, right?
So
about
you think Marcos win was something like that?
absolutely, and also the appeal of what I call disciplinary politics. This whole Singapore model thing, right? So I think people have to understand that our critique of populism doesn't necessarily mean a full endorsement of what came before it. I think the two are connected. There's a causality there. Therefore, siguro last point here. Again, I don't want to put you on the spot because you're from survey agencies, but you're also a political scientist. What do you think is the challenge now for the opposition? Because there's a lot of, there's the Duterte Marcos fights and all of that. But as far as opposition is concerned, nasaan ang opposition, right?
So that's the basic question. It's a
yeah.
more simple question. Where's the opposition? Somebody has obviously appropriated being the opposition, but are they really the opposition? And that's why the opposition has to be wherever they are, has to be more mindful, a little more self-conscious about this, no? And the opposition has, it can't be the opposition of the last 6 years, no? It has to be around the values and programs of government at this point, no? And there are significant debates, no, that have to be engaged, no, by all the groups, where the country is going, who is it going to align with, what are its values, no, that have to be protected. In the end, that is what will define whoever is going to emerge as the opposition. Right now, it doesn't seem clear that there is a viable or even a legitimate opposition in place, no? And largely because people have become quiet, people have become parochial and personal, people have begun to accept, no, the current dispensation. But there is a window. I think you understand, and I believe also that there's a space for progressive politics to emerge. And it really has to start along, it has to be disciplined by values, by programs, by, eventually by an ideology. I know I'm being idealistic here, but once our politics begins to be disciplined by ideas, platform, and program, then we can conceive, no, of alternatives, no,
And
of
organization. You need organization.
yeah, of course,
Legwork.
organization,
Kailangan ng legwork
the
yan. Yeah.
legwork. But do you believe that possibly it's very possible this administration might become more yellow than it ought to be, di ba? It's turning out to become, and it's kind of an irony of sorts, no? It
Well,
started
that's a
with
Tiglao theory, right? Like this is Aquino 2.0 or something like that. Mas
yeah,
dilaw sa
don't
dilaw.
you think that that's what's happening now?
Yeah.
That's if the president's wise, okay, that's the argument. He has to run a platform. That's a counter argument to the Duterte argument, no? Which is pretty clear, no? Although it's not very sophisticated, okay? And it has to go back to values, eh? And I guess this is what was wrong with the campaign of Lenny before. It just totally negated, no, that whole historical past of being yellow, no, and all that it stood for, and watered it down with pink, no, which in the end appropriated what was yellow in the first place. No, what am I trying to say here? The opposition has to go back to the roots, to the radix. It has to go back to the values it's been fighting for, that history.
But reinvent it for the 21st
Yeah,
century.
but reinvent it,
Yeah,
no? So
exactly.
yeah, it can't be the same opposition of 2016 eh. Iba na yung laro ngayon eh. And it's not a hopeless case for them because the current administration is looking for allies. And the current administration might actually, if they're wise, appropriate, no? And get these
Realignments.
realignments for convenience. Yeah, okay. But the thing is, that's what politics is all about in some level, di ba? The art of the possible. And I think there's a space for that, the possibility of this administration aligning with the yellows, with the Dilawan.
And how do you see in a way success of people like Riza Ontiveros, very much progressive, very much attached to more left than liberal, right? Back to back, she made it in a very, very tough race. The Senate race the only one. Do you think that the Riza the precedence kind of tells us the way forward for the opposition also?
To some
Or is
extent,
it sui generis? Or is it sui
yeah.
is the Riza?
Yeah, but it's I think to a great extent it's the distinct style of Visa and how she captured. But I don't know if we can recreate Riza in particular. But what we do know is that we have the Dutertes arguing a particular worldview, a particular set of values, a particular style of governance, which apparently this administration can counter by, again, presenting a counter argument. And that counter argument would require them to align with the progressives from the left, okay, from people like Riza Ontiveros and the so-called Dilawans. I think there's a genuine opportunity because of the situation where the unique situation we're in, where we
Yeah.
have to deal with superpowers playing, puppet master here, that the progressives and the administration might find it convenient to help each other in the 2025 elections. These are numbers are showing that that might be formidable, and people will see the counter argument there. You know, that counter has to be made stark to our electorate. Sino yung pro-China, sino yung anti-China, sino yung pro-WPS, sino yung anti, sino yung makatao, makajos, makabayan, sino yung pro-human rights, sino anti. These things can be made clear, but it can only find its legitimacy if the administration aligns with truly progressive forces who have a history of advocating these values. And I think there's an opportunity for that in the 2025 election. If the administration is wise, they're not going to go with the regular slate. They're going to be including people who will shock us, no? But then again, if
I'm
the
not sure we're gonna be
also,
shocked. I mean, this is Philippines. Alam
yeah,
naman
but
balimbingan and all of that.
but if the progressives are wise, they'll take up the opportunity, the tactical alliance, because it would mean preventing certain forces from coming into power again.
On that note, thank you very much to Professor Ranjit Rai of UP Department of Political Science, and of course the president. I mean, the president of the Octa research group, which has been doing very well. I'm very glad that we had. I mean, 1 hour, parang wala lang yung 1 hour sa atin dahil
I know
mga academics. But I
I'm
hope,
very proud of you, Richard, as my student doing this show, no. And I also want to let the people know these are my personal opinions, not opinions of Octa or the university I belong to. Okay, and I'm very happy that you invited me in the show. Hopefully, we'll have more banter and discussion in the future.
Yes, I hope this is a good warm up. So expecting hopefully we'll have more of you gracing our little show here to discuss next big surveys. Kasi I think people's appetites has been whetted by yung idea na who knows, maybe the next survey ganito, ganyan. So the trend lines are very important to make a proper political analysis. Maraming salamat, Professor, and have a good day. I know you're very busy. You're getting texts and all of that. I'm sure maraming
I know.
But I appreciate
thanks for inviting me, and good luck with your show.
God bless and talk to you soon, sir.